Yeah, that's right, folks. We're back for yet another little bit of breaking news. And as you can see on the screen there, wide receiver Tyreek Hill, now a former Kansas City Chief, as he has been traded to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks, a first, a second, a fourth this year, and then a pair of draft picks next year. It's just another unbelievable bomb, as the song says. No, it's been an incredible offseason, and yet another huge move that really isn't just a move. It's a conference altering move. It's a division altering move. It's a team altering move. And you're talking about, arguably the best receiver in the league. You could say clearly the best receiver in the conference is now calling Miami home. And I'll give you the floor, Braden, because obviously you cover the Chiefs and you follow this team very intimately. How shocked were you that this came about, one, so quickly, and two, just about what this Chiefs team is going to do moving forward?
Yeah, I think the shock is really kind of just more immediate because of, I think, just what we heard about 10 days ago of how close these two sides were to a contract extension in Kansas City. And I think just the fact that everything kind of seemed to be going, in a way that would probably pay him at the time sounded anywhere from 22 to 23 million or more per season. So yeah, it kind of took a quick 180. And I think, it's stunning to me that I think Kansas City would even consider this right now. I don't know. I think this is, like you said, arguably the best receiver in the league. I'd maybe still put Devontae Adams in front of him, but the fact of the matter is he's a one of one. He's probably one of the best I've ever seen in my life of being able to turn a 10-yard catch into a, like, say, 70-yard touchdown on any given play. So, I definitely think this is arguably one of the worst moves the Chiefs have made in a long time. And you can say what you want about the trade package. I mean, I love the draft as much as anybody else, but I mean, there's no one in this draft that's replacing Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. Draft picks are not always immediate successes anyway. So if Tyreek Hill didn't want to be here, I mean, I get Kansas City, they maybe had their hands tied, and it was just going to be the best chance that they had to finally, get a trade package that they thought was worth it. And I did see Adam Schefter tweet out just a moment ago, the Jets, apparently their trade offer did not involve a first round pick. So even though they had 2 top 10 picks, you weren't going to be going to get one of those from New York. So I think just from the move itself, I think it makes Kansas City obviously significantly worse. I mean, to me, they're not the best team in the division right now. And, we've seen enough AFC West moves this offseason to kind of know it's going to be a more crowded division. But I think, I don't know. I'd love to hear or see what Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce are thinking right now. And I mean, if I'm going too much on a tangent, just save me. But it's one of the worst moves they've made in a long time. And like I said, maybe it was inevitable at this point, but just very stunning.
Well, look, I agree with you. I know, we're looking at, wow, that, you see it up on the screen, a first, a second, a fourth, you get 3 extra. I don't like the trade at all. I don't think you're going to get, like you said, first of all, you're not going to find anywhere close to the value that Tyreek Hill brings, because yeah, he may not be the best wide receiver in the entire league. I agree with you, but I think he might be the most dangerous weapon in the NFL, because to your point, and we saw it in that game against Buffalo, 13 seconds, you leave Tyreek Hill with any bit of space, he can turn a little dump off pass into a 50-yard completion downfield. And, that's something that this Chiefs team is sorely going to miss, because, let's not forget that Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce for the last 2 or 3 seasons have been in the top 10 in terms of yards after catch in the entire league. And you're talking about taking the best one of all in that mix of those two off this team. And yeah, you add Juju Smith-Schuster and you still have, some talent on this roster, but not having Tyreek Hill there, I think is going to drastically change the landscape. And look, to your point, they may have not had a choice. And this is for those folks that again feel like the salary cap is a work of fiction or doesn't really exist. This is some collateral damage. You have to believe it because obviously Tyreek Hill wanted to get paid, and the
Mm,
Chiefs they just could not commit that type of money to a wide receiver for that long because of the contract that they gave to Patrick Mahomes. And it doesn't make the contract signed by Patrick Mahomes bad. Like, if you had to choose between the two, you choose between Patrick Mahomes, you take
right.
Patrick Mahomes. But this is still one of those ramifications of that. I mean, with that massive deal comes decisions you have to make down the road. And maybe it means you can't give Tyreek Hill that deal he wants now. And since he wanted that deal now, that means guess what? Well, you're gonna have to trade him. And now you lose again. I agree with you. I don't know. I don't think they're the best team in the division now. I was kind of shaky on it to begin with because and we talked about this last time. I didn't think they got terribly worse. Like I still thought they were still the best team in the division. I just didn't think they've gotten better, and the other teams had clearly really closed the gap. Um, just even in the last 3 or 4 days, I've completely flipped on that. On top of the Tyreek Hill deal,
Hmm.
you get Devontae Adams to Las Vegas. You now think about now they have a pretty potent offense. Now you look at you have Max Crosby and Chandler Jones coming after this offense, and now you don't have Tyreek Hill to kind of I don't want to say bail out because that again kind of it has a bad meaning to it. It makes it seem like Patrick Mahomes was. I'm not meaning it in that sense. I'm just saying when the pressure's on, you're not going to be able to have Tyreek Hill as that outlet, and a lot's going to fall on Travis Kelce, a 33-year-old Travis Kelce, by the way. This guy is not young. He is essentially the same age as Rob Gronkowski, and a lot of people think Rob Gronkowski is really pushing the limit when it comes to being washed. So, yeah, I don't like this in the immediate. I obviously it's hard to tell what this is going to mean long term for Kansas City. Obviously, I mean, look, Tyreek Hill was a 5th-round draft pick, so you don't have to find his replacement in the first round, but you don't hit on those late draft picks all the time. It's not a sure thing, and I don't see a path to which you find someone that can even come close to replicating what Tyreek Hill does on a football field for the Chiefs. And I think that has a ripple effect, and that's going to have a big time impact on this offense. That again, I mean, even with Tyreek Hill, you got to figure that the Chargers you would anticipate have caught up a little bit.
Hmm.
Other teams in this division, in particular, have certainly started to build towards having a better offense. I mean, being able to add Russell Wilson when you didn't have a quarterback before certainly helps. But even the rest of the league, I mean, look, of all this, outside of the fans and just the excitement and the opportunity we get to talk about all of this, the winner in all this is Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I mean, they're the one team. It seems like every team is exiting their players, sending them away. All these NFC powerhouses, Seattle, they get rid of their quarterback. The Green Bay Packers, they get rid of Devontae Adams. The Chiefs in the AFC, they get rid of their best player outside of Patrick Mahomes. And the Buccaneers, they're bringing back Leonard Fournette. They have Mike Williams. They signed Chris Godwin to an extension. So if you're a Bucs fan, you're excited right now because the strength, the teams that you look at that are threats to your championship aspirations are getting weaker. Now the wealth is being spread. Kind of look at it that way. You have better teams across the board in the AFC, but I think the top of the conference, and I think right now Buffalo is the clear best team in the conference. I think it's just not as strong as it used to be. So you relative to the NFC, I mean the NFC is just weak. I what 3 quarterbacks right now that you would trust. I mean, you have
Yeah.
Brady, Matt Stafford, and even now Green Bay again. You lose Devontae Adams, an All-Pro receiver. Back-to-back years of the All-Pro, one of the All-Pro Team One receivers getting traded. Tyreek Hill a year ago, Devontae Adams this year. So
Yeah.
it's wild to see, and I know we say it every year. Oh, this is a crazy NFL offseason. This is that. This might be actually the craziest in terms of not just the number of moves, but like I said to start this show, the franchise, conference, and league altering moves of particular players has really been mind blowing to this point.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I wanted to go next. I mean, you talk about the Mahomes contract, but you look at some of the other contracts that kind of, if you're Kansas City, prevented you from being able to pay Hill what he wanted. The Kelsey deal's been okay, but I think you look at obviously Frank Clark, and now he's back for at least probably one more year, maybe two, who knows. Chris Jones, guys like that. I mean, really, they haven't gotten really any good value out of those investments. Even Anthony Hitchens was, I mean, what, probably half a season or one good season that he had in Kansas City. So I think you look at some of the investments they've decided to make, and now you talk about just the conference altering part of it. Now you have to actually go out and build, a full fledged team around Mahomes, and it was kind of going to be getting to that point. But you talk about taking away, his top receiver. The defense is worse than it was, at the start of the offseason in my mind. Even with bringing in Justin Reed, you don't really have any depth at defensive end or corner right now. So I think that's what's really interesting for Kansas City is they have to go out and really build a full team now for Mahomes' kind of next window here. Um, and I think it's just it always proves everybody's point. The NFL stands for not for long. I mean, there's never going to be another Patriots dynasty. The Chiefs can still probably win, maybe 10 games this year, maybe still a playoff team. But I think that's kind of what this offseason is kind of reminding people of is, I mean, you have to cash in and get your one chance when you got it. And, for Kansas City, they came through in 2019, but it's just, I think, winning in the NFL, it's always been tough, but it's never been tougher than right now. And you're seeing Kansas City kind of get, lost in the shuffle now here in the division and in the AFC.
Well, and look, I'm not going to say they're going to go the route of the Seahawks, who really didn't return to a NFC Championship game after that Super Bowl loss to the Patriots and Tom Brady. But to your point, yeah, I mean, this is something that some of us. I hate to use the term older folks, but those of us who we're old enough to have actually watched through and watched the Patriots dynasty unfold and all the ones that had tried to come and go before that. And look, the Rams in the early 2000s had an opportunity and it went away quickly. The Seahawks we talk about, I mean, the Colts, as talented as they are, you could argue that it was 1A, 1B between them and the Patriots for almost 12 years, and they only won one Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
winning is incredibly difficult, and Tom Brady has in many ways skewed the way we evaluate winning, how we evaluate quarterbacks, and we saw the Seahawks go to back-to-back Super Bowls, and at the time, you're thinking, wow, this defense is going to run the NFL again. They haven't been back to an NFC Championship game in 8 years. So, Kansas City, I'm curious to see what they end up doing moving forward because they are going to get weaker on offense, but they have reportedly shown interest in guys like Stephon Gilmore, who you mentioned cornerback depth being a issue. They can now perhaps start to shift their focus. They have a little bit of extra money to spend. They don't have this contract hanging over them. And I would imagine that Stephon Gilmore might come at a reasonable cost. I don't think you're going to get him bargain basement, but you might
Right.
be able to get a decent contract out of him. And he's a player that can really, to your point, boost that secondary. And you're just going to have to find different ways to win football games because I would say the days of, the red zone is anywhere on the field for the Chiefs are probably over because Tyreek Hill was a massive part of that. It doesn't mean you're not going to see some big plays and stuff like that. You get that from every team, but the threat of at any given moment watching Tyreek Hill take a pass and turn it upfield for 60, that's over. So the Chiefs have to change their philosophy. Maybe not completely, but they have to alter it because if you continue to think that you can replicate it, even with someone who's fast, I mean, maybe they go to Byron Pringle and they're like, "Hey, you're fast. Why don't you do what Tyreek Hill did?" No, it's not. It doesn't happen that way. It's not just about speed. It's about just football ability, and that encompasses so much. It's not just one thing or the other. So if the Chiefs are ready and capable of adjusting, it will help this land a little bit easier. But you combine this with, again, the rest of the teams in the AFC West, in particular, making moves to get better. And again, we talked about this. I feel like maybe it was the other day. Maybe I talked about this on FPC Radio Live, but the the conversation about which team runs the AFC right now, I thought even prior to this, I was like, look, I kind of got to lean Buffalo right now because
Yeah.
I see them and particularly Josh Allen. And this isn't a knock on Patrick Mahomes because I think if he stays where he's at, he's great. But I there's a misconception again, and this is going to be very evident now that Tyreek Hill is here. A lot of people focus heavily on 2018. And I don't think that was the norm. I think that may or may not have been the highest quote unquote statistical output you're going to see, which is fine. I mean, that's a how many people go 50 and 5,000 yards exactly,
Right.
it's not a knock, but I think there's a possibility we might know what we have in Patrick Mahomes, and what we've seen from Josh Allen is a year after year progressive climb and growth, which you would have to think year 5, you're going to take another step. And at this point, I think Buffalo has a stronger overall team. I think Josh Allen is, again, I said it earlier. I think he's the better quarterback. Again, that could change 6 weeks into the season, and I could have egg on my face. But the way Buffalo's trending right now, and they're not in that conference in that division, I mean, it's going to be tough for Kansas City to. I mean, again, what are the expectations? We're going to have to adjust those when we have a better idea what this team's going to look like. Because again, they're going to go out, they're going to have to go get talent, they're going to have opportunities in the draft. Maybe they use what they have, the draft capital they have now to move up. Maybe they identify a wide receiver who may not be Tyreek Hill, but could be that guy that helps soften that blow a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
go ahead.
yeah, I guess kind of just thinking about my article for later today, I'm going to kind of be, looking at where Kansas City goes from here. I've seen some people kind of throw names out there like DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, and that's kind of the thing. I mean, if Kansas City was, finally at this point, I think if there's, I don't know, it's not maybe as encouraging as other like half glass full type scenarios, but you got to think if Kansas City was at this point now, they have a plan in place. You would think. It's been a little bit of a different offseason for Brett Veach, where usually he's been ultra aggressive and really kind of counteracting what their biggest flaw was the season before and fixing that. So it has been a little more of a relaxed type of offseason, but I would have to think they have some plan in place like that. And I think just, some of the wide receiver market trades we've seen recently, I don't necessarily think that's out of the realm of possibility. I know Metcalf probably feels right now with Russell Wilson gone that he'd probably be willing to move. I would assume so. If that's a name that they're interested in, it'd be a really interesting fit, a different fit with Kansas City. But yeah, I think that's one thing that kind of sticks out to me now. Kind of looking toward the immediate future, not necessarily in the long term for Kansas City right now.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the way this offseason is going, there could be a name that we're not even thinking of right now that could
Yeah.
pop into the trade market and be a member of it. And actually, you know what? I'm double checking because I'm not quite sure, and maybe you can let's see, because a name that kind of pops up into my head, uh, and is certainly a guy that's not you know not he's aware of being traded. Let's put it this way, because he's been traded several times. Brandon Cooks.
Oh yeah.
Right off the top of my head, I think of a guy who does he have the exact same skill set as Tyreek Hill? No, but he's a very fast and very good deep ball receiver and someone who could clearly um, again, it's not going to be the same exact offense. You're going to have to adjust things. But if you feel confident enough, obviously, in your quarterback and the other rest of your team around you, you can adapt. And to be honest, that's how the Patriots were able to maintain, obviously, again, having Tom Brady is it kind of cures a lot of woes. Um, but they constantly reinvented what they did on offense and defense, but particularly on offense, because after a certain point, the Patriots offense was either like pretty much top four in the league for the majority of their run, with the only times kind of escaping that it was like 5, 6, or 7. So the offense really drove this it drove this dynasty, but the biggest thing they were able to do was constantly change from being a ground and pound, so to speak, type offense to two tight ends to spread them out. All of a sudden, they started going up tempo, no huddle. Teams were running around. What do we do? What do we do? Then they slow it down. Then they go two tight end, and then they go. So if Kansas City can do that, you're going to be able to alleviate the loss of a guy like Tyreek Hill, because again, I mean, he's not the only talented receiver. It's just his talent. It's hard to replace just one off. You're going to have to get creative, whether it's with different players or different schemes and everything like that. So, but yeah, Brandon Cooks was a guy that kind of just popped into my mind when it comes to a possible replacement.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense, and they have kind of been missing that prototypical X. And I know he's not necessarily a prototypical X from a size perspective, but he's always kind of played bigger than his size. And you mentioned the downfield ability that he's always shown, and he's proven that, I think, year after year. Has been able to handle a role like that. So yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense. I know he has 1 year left on his deal. Just kind of looking at some other trade options throughout the offseason, but yeah, I think that's a guy that can kind of step in, and for Kansas City, what they would need right now, I think someone that's proven, someone that's able to kind of handle that similar role, I think would make a lot of sense. There was kind of another thing that I wanted to mention, was just it's really interesting now to look at how defenses and teams have kind of altered to how they're going to defend Mahomes and kind of take away the deep ball. I mean, how does that kind of impact the Chiefs offense? Do they become maybe a little more balanced? I don't think that'll ever really be anything close to 50-50 under somebody like Andy Reid, but you add somebody like Juju, more of an underneath guy that can
Mhm.
work the middle of the field. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see. I mean, regardless of who's on the offense in week one, what kind of mold and adjustment Andy Reid's going to kind of make because of this now.
Well, and look, I'll end on this note, a positive note for all you Chiefs fans out there, and I'll give you a little bit of half glass full here. Um, Maybe again, one of my biggest criticisms of Mahomes, and I think the as we compile more and more data on the evaluation of the quarterback play and all that stuff, it kind of lends credence to it, and that is he tends to take off way too early, and it leads to problems. But hey, Tyreek Hill's down there, and you know what? He's going to win a lot of those matchups. So here's the half glass full. You are now forcing, and you mentioned Juju's more of an underneath type receiver, which could ultimately play a great part in Mahomes' evolution as a quarterback. You are now forcing him to not do what, well, sometimes leads to some of the most exciting plays, but really long term is one of the more damaging things for his projections, I guess, for the future. And that is just being able to rely solely on physical ability and running out of the pocket and hucking it down the field. Now, and one of my, the things I keep talking about is that second half of the season, I felt like Mahomes slowed it down a lot more and
Mhm.
kept himself in the pocket. And it allowed him to, one, reduce the number of those turnover worthy plays, but two, just control the game better. It's not necessarily about making the big splashy play all the time. It's about being methodical and controlling the game. Well, you don't have Tyreek Hill, who again was the biggest outlet of that. You could run around and huck the ball up, and Tyreek Hill's going to come out of nowhere, run it 75 yards. It's just how it happens. You don't have that anymore, so it might force Patrick Mahomes' hand to continue his evolution, which ultimately I think will make him a better quarterback than what he is, which again is a great thing for Chiefs fans. So to end
Yeah,
the show on a high note, that's what I will say, and say, look, there's always positives. This isn't the end of the world. The Chiefs
right.
franchise is not going to collapse, but like you said it just a moment ago, this does put in perspective what everyone outside of hashtag Chiefs Kingdom has been saying over the last 3 years. Pump the brakes, appreciate winning and being there, because in a moment's notice, it's going to be gone. And, I'm not saying they're never going to get back, but their task, their job, their path to a Super Bowl was already difficult. It is infinitely more difficult now, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So, thank you everyone for tuning in. I'd like to say we're not going to be back. I said it last time, and right on point. 2 days later, we were back doing another live broadcast. At this point, I don't know if anyone else can even be traded. I think everyone has been traded, but if another trade does happen, another big move, we will be here to break it down. Until then, give us a follow on Twitter at Full Press NFL. Check us out on Instagram, Full Press Coverage, fullpresscoverage.com. And of course, go to Full Press Radio to check out all of our great podcasts, live broadcasts, and all that fun stuff. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you next time.